What's up, my witches? Welcome back to my channel. I am the City Witch, and today we're going to be reviewing this new book in my collection called Seeking Dragons by Virginia Chandler, connecting to dragon energy and magic. So this is what the front cover of the book looks like. It's very colourful, beautiful, really loving the dragon behind the woman on the front cover. It gives me very protective vibes, very pretty. The book Seeking Dragons is actually the second book in Virginia's collection. The first book she wrote about dragon magic is called Year of the Magical Dragon, and the Year of the Magical Dragon was very much about working with dragon energy throughout the seasons and cycles of the year. So you take a look at certain dragons throughout the various seasons, and at the end of each chapter there was a ritual to perform that helps you connect with the energy of that dragon if you so chose. There was also lots of tips and advice on setting up your altar, starting to dedicate yourself to dragons, open yourself up to their draconic energy and welcome them into your life. So it was really basic, easy, beginner friendly stuff with lots of information about dragons throughout the ages and from mythology. So that's the book you really should start with to prepare you for what's in this book. Now, we're going to start by reading the back of the book and then I'll show you the contents. Your quest for dragons begins now. Arising out of the greatest myths and legends, dragons are powerful allies, lending their gifts and wisdom to your magical practice. Summon forth their sacred energies and weave their transformative power into your life with spells, rituals, meditations, and more. Seeking Dragons represents a cross-culture exploration of the draconic archetypes as they have appeared across the millennia as gods, monsters, and mentors, sharing visualizations, oils and incense recipes, detailed rituals for honouring celestial and elemental dragons. Virginia Chandler helps you forge close bonds with these mysterious creatures as essential spiritual companions. You'll learn how to make offerings to them, perform lunar magic with them, and connect to their energy through folklore. If your heart has longed to work with dragons, then open this book and let the adventure begin. Okay, so let's take a look at the contents of the book. So the first thing I want to show you is we do have some lovely artwork. You do have information about the author in this book as well. We have other books that she has written. And then we have some acknowledgements. And of course, we have our disclaimer. This is all the usual stuff you expect. If you're working with candles, don't leave them unattended. You know, practice your craft safely and sensibly, use discernment. And anything in this book where medical stuff might be recommended, make sure you are always consulting a doctor and never replace good medical advice with magic. They should go hand in hand, side by side, and work well together. So, contents of the book. We have our introduction to Seeking Dragons. That just gives you an outline of what the book is going to be about, what to expect from the book, and how to work with and use this book to connect with dragons, as an introduction should. Chapter 1, Dragons of the Past. Chapter 2, The Call of the Dragon. Chapter 3, Dragons and Transformation. Chapter 4, Dragon Energy and Elemental Dragons. Chapter 5, Dragon Archetypes. Chapter 6, Offerings and Sacrifice. Chapter 7, Dragon Ritual. And Chapter 8, Lunar Dragon Magic and Ritual. Chapter 9, Dragon Spellcasting. And Chapter 10, Harvesting the Dragon's Teeth. Then we have a conclusion which covers transformation through dragons. Then we have a couple of lists at the back. So we have dragon oils and incense recipes. We have some dragon spells that you can practice, and then a further recommended reading list about dragons. So I'm going to give you a quick look through the book before I tell you the good and the bad that I personally noticed. So the introduction is what you expect. It just outlines what you're going to be doing in this book, what the book is all about, and what dragon magic is, and connecting with energy of dragons, so draconic currents. Then we have Dragons of the Past, which is your first chapter. So this just kind of covers really important dragons in mythology that are well known and talked about and play a role in your dragon craft and practice. So Where have all the dragons gone? An overview of the chapter, and kind of just touches on a few dragons she discussed from her first book. This is really basic compared to what's in her first book, but I feel like she needed this in case you've never read the first one. At least you've got a few of the most important dragons mentioned and a little bit of information about them. Then chapter 2, the call of the dragon. So this is how you connect with their energy. So building your sacred space, preparing your space, dragon ritual altar and how to build one. So consecrating your altar, altar energy exercises that you can do, altar activation work, meditating at your altar and sacred space. We've got connecting with your dragons for the first time and identifying who your guardian dragon is. There's a lot of information about what a guardian dragon is and how to connect to one. We have here a meditation, and then we have journaling prompts, and then some journal entries and exercises, and you kind of get that at the end of every chapter along with a conclusion as well. Dragons and transformation. So this is a little bit of transformative work. So human to dragon, dragon slayers transformed. So we look at the shape-shifting capabilities of dragons and how it can be utilized. Dragons who transform the world, energy exercises and photo meditation. We've got connecting to Draco, the star dragon. We've got a recommendation on working with mantras and their benefits in your craft and practice. We've got, again, journal prompts and then your overview. Dragon energy and elemental dragons. So here we start to work with the dragon energy and the elemental forces that rule our universe. So we've got dragon energy, holding the tension, dragon lines. So this is ley lines, also known as dragon lines. We've got elemental dragons and what they are. You've got this lovely chart that helps break down the main energies of the dragons and a few correspondences. So for example, for an earth dragon, you would be looking at green dragons, fire dragons red, water dragons would be blue, air dragons are yellow, spirit dragons are usually purpley kind of hues. And then it talks about the vibrations of the dragons as well, from slow, medium to high, and then sounds associated with them as well. Then we've got information about those dragons. So we've got earth dragons, fire dragons, we've got our water dragons, air and spirit, of course. And then we've got energy exercises to help you connect with them all. And then a great meditation, which I really enjoyed. Then we've got our journal prompts and then some dragon energy work that you can do. And then the conclusion of the chapter. Dragon archetypes. This one was very interesting and probably my favourite chapter in the whole book, and something in my years as working with dragons that I haven't really fully delved into. So this was quite a breath of fresh air for me. So dragon archetypes, so looking at ancestral dragon work. We've got battle dragons and how they can help you with defense and protection magic. We have celestial dragons and dragons of the cosmos and the galaxies. We've got dragons that are connected to deities. So there are some gods and goddesses out there that have their own dragons. Kuan Yin actually has her own dragon. So you can connect with dragons that are sacred and are companions to certain deities if you like. So that was also another interesting concept. We have guardian dragons, of course. We have primordial dragons, prime mover dragons, and then we have world dragons, the ones that are connected to the earthly plane. And then we have a meditation that helps you recognize the dragon and the pattern you're seeing to identify it. And then we have, again, journal entries and some archetype overview thoughts. Offerings and sacrifice. So what offerings can you give a dragon? So synergy of sacrifice and why you would want to do it. Dragon folklore surrounding sacrifices and offerings. We've got dedicating your offerings, burnt offerings, of course, because of dragon fire, makes sense. We've got offering, sound and movement. So here we look at singing songs, chanting, mantras. We look at dance and movement and working with the body. So that was also very interesting. We've got energy exercises, we've got offerings of substance, we've got offerings of scent and light, and then we've got another meditation. And then again, we have our journal, prompts and entries, and then offerings and sacrifice overview. Dragon rituals. So this is where you start to learn how to perform rituals with your dragon. So why would you want to perform a ritual? What is a ritual and how can it aid you in your practice? 13 steps of importance when it comes to your ritual. So purpose, composition, preparation, raising energy, invocation, petition, offering, thanksgiving, sacred feast, farewell, and closing the portal down, which ends your ritual. The ritual purpose and how to choose what the purpose of your ritual is going to be. Composition or review of your ritual preparation work, things you can do before your ritual that help you prepare energetically, energizing your ritual space, and she actually gives you a really nice incantation for that. And then we have invocation to the elemental dragons. We've got invocation to deity dragons, petitions, offerings, thanksgiving. We've got sacred feasts, farewell to your deity dragons and farewell to your elemental dragons, closing the portal down, and then ritual singing. We've got the shadow dragon ritual. What else do we have? And then we have our overview and conclusion to that chapter. Lunar dragon magic. So this is working with the moon phases and various different dragons that rule over those phases. So connecting with the moon and moon dragons, tools for lunar rituals, brief review of the ritual you're going to be doing. Then you've got recommendations. So we've got a new moon ritual, or if you prefer to call it a dark moon, that's fine too. She gives you a layout for everything you need to do in these rituals, everything that you will need. Full moon rituals between the moon as well. So when the moon is in its quarter phases. She gives you first winter moon, second winter moon, got the third, we've got spring moon. So here you can break it down to the moons of the year as well. And she tells you which dragons to work for that as well, which is really handy. And she gives you like candle recommendations, energy focuses. So as an example here, so the third summer lunar cycle, new moon, so awakening dragon moon. Full moon, do the harvest dragon moon ritual. Crystal, citrine crystal or clear quartz as a substitute. Ritual candles should be orange and red. Energy focus should be about harvest. So she's giving you lots of ideas to design your own rituals and work with the dragons throughout the year as well, which ties into her first book. Lunar dragon ritual exercise. And then we've got composing a lunar ritual, creating ritual tools. And then we've got sacred sanctuary. And then we have our ritual dedication and then lunar dragon magic and ritual overview, which concludes the chapter. And then we have dragon spell casting. So this is where for the first time you'll look at doing spells with your dragons. So 13 steps of dragon spell casting. So we've got outcome, composition, preparation, clearing, activation, proclamation, chant or incantation, action, conjuration, release and completion. And then we've got manifestation and assessment of your spell. And then we've got outcome, composition, all of those are kind of broke down so you can understand what they are, how to do them, why they're important steps, and she goes through them all one at a time. And then she gives you some examples. So here we have spell casting for spell for safe travel, and here she's working with a stave, which is a Norse pagan sigil. What else do we have in this chapter? We have spellcasting models, so finding what is lost. And again, we have another stave for that. We have another spell here, which is petition for employment or a career. We have another one, magical realm of the dragons. So kind of entering the realm of the dragons. There's a beautiful meditation for that, which I enjoyed. And then again, journal entries and a conclusion. And then we go into harvesting the dragon's teeth. So dragon archetypes, so dragons of ice and snow, the horde keepers of Scandinavia, Fafnir as a guardian and initiator. We've got Beowulf's dragon, or Beowulf, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. We have a couple of Norse dragons that are mentioned here as well. Using the ruins in your practice to connect with the ice and snow dragons, creating dragon ruins. So here she talks about creating dragon ruins, but she doesn't actually show you how to do that. And here we clearly have the Elderhawk ruin collection. However, she chose to give them dragon names and dragon associations. Now, I don't know how I feel about this. For me, there's a very delicate grey area around taking something old that has been around for a long time, that works and doesn't need perfecting, correcting or changing in any way, and then changing it that sort of implies you can make it better, or transforming it into something else entirely. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't always think it's bad, but for me, I don't think the ruins themselves needed to be given dragon associations. I actually think it would have been better for her to have actually designed a set of dragon ruins that were completely unique, new sigils that could be used for dragon magic. Even better if she'd have meditated and gotten them from the dragons herself. Now, I have quite a lot of books on dragon magic in my collection, and there are 2 other books that give you a dragon alphabet and dragon ruins. So, you know, those books went down the unique path of giving you something new to work with that didn't mess around with something old. So if you want to work with the ruins with dragons, I don't see why you can't, but I just didn't see why it needed a dragon association attached to it. Just the normal association and energies with the ruins would have been fine. And then maybe kind of giving you a dragon that matched that ruin and its energy would have been good. That would have been better for me. But overall, I would have preferred a new set of ruins that were completely unique and different and new, that focused on working with the dragons. So using the dragon ruin stones, so she gives you some recommendations. There's a meditation for connecting with ice and snow dragons. And then journal entries and a conclusion. And then we have transformation through the dragons. So in dragon lore, we know dragons are shapeshifters. They're very transformative with their energy. So here we take a peek at working with their transformational energy. So introduction to transformation, ritual and meditation that you're going to be doing, and then a conclusion to that. And then we have our oil and incense recipes here, which I actually did make a couple of these as well. And I've put them to the test and I have had good results with them. And then we have some dragon spells at the end of the book. So we've got a sleep charm, petition for a guardian dragon. We've got water and rain dragon petition, keeping the balance, protection spell. And that's kind of it. And then you get your recommended reading list. So overall, what do I think of this book? So positives, first of all. The book is filled with plenty of meditation, spells, rituals, and energy exercises, as you saw for yourselves, guys, which makes it a very practical book with lots of things that you can do. So if you're the kind of practitioner that enjoys practicing, so not just reading a book, but actively practicing your craft, putting things to the test, performing rituals and spells, then this is definitely going to be a book you'll enjoy. Offerings to dragons was discussed in various forms, such as through song and dance. There was a lot of really interesting ideas. I don't think many people out there who work with dragons have actually thought about making offerings to dragons and sacrificing time and energy to them through song and dance. So there were some interesting concepts, and I was glad that was included in the book. There is plenty to do, and it is an enjoyable read overall. The vast majority of this book is a great improvement on her first one. I personally found her first book a little bit boring. I thought that it was regurgitated information, and I didn't enjoy the way she gave the rituals in the first book. They were kind of carbon copies of each other, and all she'd done is change the name of the dragon you're going to work with. It was kind of lazy writing style for me, and I just didn't like that. This book was dramatically different, so much information, better presented, enjoyable, and just a massive improvement from her first book. So I appreciate this, and I can see why this became the second book. And if you read the first book, this is kind of like a nice transition into this one. So I definitely would say read the first one, see what you guys think of it, and then read this one. And I'm hoping she's going to do a third book where she takes it a step further and we start to go deeper in dragon magic, and the rituals and spells maybe get harder, the work you do with the dragons gets deeper and more difficult. Maybe a book on working shadow magic with the dragons could be a good one. So yeah, it'd be nice if she took this a step further, but this is very, very beginner friendly. I don't think anything in this book is too complicated or difficult. The book does touch on a couple of slightly more complex topics like invocation, shape-shifting and rituals. However, they are presented to you in a very beginner-friendly way. So it's kind of like you're dipping your toes into slightly more difficult, complex forms of magic. And it's a great way for you to introduce yourself to those sorts of practices and ideas. If you begin with her first book, Year of the Magical Dragon, as your starting point, then this book begins to take you into dragon magic from a practical perspective. So it does take you to that next step, which is exactly what you're looking for. I personally much preferred this book over her first book. I think that this is more practical, more informative, better presented, with way more information in this book compared to her first one. Because like I said, her first one very much focused on meditations and connecting with dragons through a singular ritual, which was repeated throughout the book, and just gave you information about mythology. So if you want to research dragons and learn about dragons and mythology, it's a great one for that. But if you want to connect them energetically and do work with them, this is the better book. Now for the negatives. Invocation versus evocation. Virginia gets the terminology for invoking and invoking confused and doesn't seem to know the differences between the two. So I'm going to tell you what they are. Invoking, so invocation with an I, means to bring within. So to take a being, a spirit into your body. Think of the I for inside, okay? And then evocation with an E means to evoke into your space an energy or being. So you bring them into your space, your environment. Whereas with invocation, you bring them into your body. That's the differences between the two. Virginia gets them very confused and doesn't seem to know the differences between the two, which was a little bit of an amber flag for me. Virginia utilizes rune staves in this book for some of the spells. And as we saw, she also gives you the full list of Norse pagan ruins. I would have preferred a more custom designed set of sigils. I would have liked a set of dragon ruins that she'd been given by the dragons or had worked with her dragon guides that she's had permission to give to us in the world that we could turn into sigils. And I would have liked a whole chapter on creating dragon sigils and actually designing your own set rather than just a snippet of information. So those were the major negatives for me. I do think the book is very, very simple as well. Nothing in here is overly too complicated. And I think that with it being very beginner friendly, an advanced practitioner might get slightly bored with this book. However, I would still say give it a read because it's a great introduction to dragon magic if you've never worked with them before. It does give you a great starting point. And for any advanced practitioner wanting to work with dragons, much of the information in here, you'll know exactly what she's talking about and how to do it, but she'll give you that dragon spin on it to give you a starting point. So it's still a book worth having in your collection if you are wanting to be a dragon practitioner. I would score this book probably about a 7 out of 10. I did enjoy it and I will be keeping it in my collection, and I'm going to keep an eye on Virginia and see if she is doing any more books. So that's my review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please give me that thumbs up, click the bell, and YouTube will tell you when my next video comes out. If you'd like to offer light, love and support to my channel, you can do that through my Amazon wishlist or through my PayPal link, and thank you so much for supporting me. If you wish to ask me any questions, please leave a comment on the video. I do check every single day and I try my best to respond fairly quickly. If you'd like to contact me or book me for any of my magical services, you can do that through Facebook, Instagram, X, Tumblr and via email, and all the links are provided, guys. Thank you so much for your support and watching till the end. I do appreciate it. As always, be good to each other and may your gods bless you. Blessed be.